All right, this is how we use the Unispense. We have two of them in the lab. They both function the same, but each one can be set with a different size tubing, and these are preset with the tubings that we typically use the most in lab. You can see this one has a much larger size tube. To turn it on, there's a little switch on the back. We flip on, we let it load. Once we see that manual, we know we can change any settings that we have. To change settings, we press select. You can see the volume. This one is set to large volume. It will not go to a low volume. So if I say 2 mils here, it'll go, that's out of range. You can do 2.5 mils to 3,000 mils. So we say, okay. So we'll leave it at 10. You can select the next one, which is delay. That tells you the time between automatic pulses of dispensing. So it'll pulse, stop, and allow you to move the pouring portion of the dispenser, which is this guy right here, to the next tube. It'll give you 0.5 seconds, which is the fastest you can set. You can change it to any number. I think you can set it to 3 even if you want. That's very slow, but there you go. Reset that back to 0.5. Select. So this one's set to 6 millimeter tubing. That's the internal diameter. So this is a very large tubing. This one over here has a much smaller tubing. I believe this is a 3 millimeter tubing. So it is much better at dispensing smaller volumes. You can say next, and it'll give us a count. Counting's not as helpful unless you have to be very accurate, but just counting your number of tubes is probably the better way to go. You don't have to worry about any of this other stuff. And there you go. When you are ready to start, what you will do is you will say, okay, I'm ready to start. I'm going to hit auto main, and it'll give us the setup, the basic things of the machine, which is 10 mils, 0.5 second delay, tubing size 6 millimeters. To dispense something, you will put the glass end, which should always be attached to the bottom end of the dispenser here, into the liquid that you want to dispense. So you'll put it into the beaker. You want it to basically sit at the very bottom of the beaker. There are little nodules in the glass to allow you to have the best amount of sucking up of liquid. So there you go. Then you will have this end over here to suck up or dispense the liquid in the tubes. Now, when you do this, if I were to hit, say, okay, let's go ahead and start. So we'll start. It'll give you the choice of manual or automatic. Manual, you just have to press the start button each time to begin making the pump move, and it'll dispense exactly the amount, which is helpful if you're just getting used to it. Or if you need to get the liquid all the way up into the tubing from the bottom to here before you're ready to start dispensing in the tubes. When you're ready to start dispensing in an automatic fashion, you just press auto and it switches. And now you can start moving it. So you can hear it beep each time it's ready. So you can start moving to each new tube as you go along. If you need to stop, you just hit stop and it'll pause. If you need to do something else, you can change the menus again just by hitting select and you'll be ready to go again. Really quickly though, volume calibration. Very difficult to do, but I'll show you guys how to do it. So we've been dispensing it. We've been dispensing 10 mils, and we said, okay, if we measure this out in a volumetric cylinder, we can go, okay, well, maybe that's off a bit. You can press calibration, which you have to run once to do a test. And you say, okay, well, we've done it once. I can now tell the machine exactly how much was dispensed. So if it's pumping out 14 mils, but it should be pumping out 12, you can correct it, and it will give you the correct volume the next time. It'll usually get within 1 or 2 mils or half a mil, depending on the volume range you select. You can do it a couple times and just kind of dial it in if it's really out of whack, but more or less it gets pretty close, and it doesn't use too much adjustments. Once you are finished dispensing, you want to make sure to rinse out the tubing on the inside, otherwise agar will get in there and it will start to grow bacteria, which is of course quite bad. The way you do this is you just get a beaker full of DI water, stick the dropper in here, and put the pump right here and just pump out all of the water of the beaker into another beaker, and then just let this air dry. The last little bit I'm going to show you how to do is to change the machine, which is very important that you turn this off. These machines are very dangerous. They can break your fingers. Peristaltic pumps do not care if you are there or not. Really quickly, you just unscrew the red braces. One, two, and usually there's a third for the shield. These are hard to replace, so please don't lose them. As you can see, we are missing one. You take off the shield, and when you want to remove this, you just pull it out to the side like this. You can move the pump down and take it out. To thread a new one in, you put it in the guide here. You move this over, and you just kind of follow this guy around as you put the tubing in. And it's going to give a little resistance. I don't think there's a great way for me to show you guys this, but I will try. And you just kind of follow it around here, and you just kind of have to force the tube through. Just be very careful with your fingers because this will break them. Once it's on, you just replace the cover, like so. Make sure the tubing is in between these little grooves, and put this guy back on, like so. And just give it a little screw, which I won't do right now because it's very hard to do one-handed. Once you're done with that, then you'll be ready to go. If you have to change out tube sizings. Sometimes we need to use sterile tubing to do this. For example, for urea broths, which are pre-sterilized media that we can't heat up, we'd use a pre-sterilized one for that. And we do have some tubing for that of other sizes that we can use for this. It's just very important that you make sure to turn the machine off when you're done, as they have a limited lifespan of being on.